Hey everybody, welcome to the Evangelion podcast, the Rewatch podcast you cannot rewatch. I'm David,
And I am Dylan.
and welcome again to another exciting episode. How many times have I said that at this point?
9 times.
Yeah, maybe. So this week, we watched episode 9, so make sure that you have watched it or are familiar with the episode, whatever you need to do to get ready to listen to us talking about the entire episode in depth. So this is an episode I remember really liking, and then watched it and realized I didn't like it at all.
Really? I think it's opposite. I love it. I like this episode a
Yeah,
lot.
it's funny. Yeah, last time I watched the show, I remember like being like, "Oh, I like this episode a lot," and this time I was like, "Man, I hate this episode. This episode sucks." So I don't know what changed for me. I think just I think I like this episode more as like a casual viewing kind of episode. I think me trying to be like super analytical of this episode kind of broke it for me because there's a lot of like this episode's like pretty much comedy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comedy stuff in here, and there is some character development, but there's not a lot of depth or complexity to this episode. Um, there's some, but there's not a lot, and yeah, I think this episode works too hard to be funny and doesn't follow through on some of its consistencies. Like for example, um, the angel comes and attacks, and I know I'm getting a little ahead of the episode here, but so the angel comes and attacks, and they watch it a little bit. Every time a new angel attacks, they don't know anything about it, and usually the first part of an angel attack is just figuring out what's up with this thing. They see that it can split into two. They already assume, oh, it can only split into two, which turns out to be true apparently. But like, I wouldn't have just assumed that. I would assume it was like I don't know, some kind of organism that can split over and over and over, whatever that's called.
Right.
And somehow, just by watching this for like 2 seconds, because the original fight is like a minute, they figure out the exact way it's going to attack later, to the point where they can do a dance thing to perfectly dodge every attack. That's like a little. I get what they're doing, but like that's it from like an analytical standpoint. That's completely flawed.
Yeah, I had the exact same thought as soon as someone do like the backhand springs the dodge bolts. It's like, all right, how'd you know that was gonna happen? Come on.
Yeah, yeah. It's just. Yeah, I mean the sequence looks cool. It's animated well. It's one of I think maybe the first sequence in the show we get kind of like classical music kind of over an action scene like that. Um, but yeah, I think trying to be really analytical in this episode kind of ruined it for me. I think this is just more of a like fun sit back and watch episode. This isn't we're not quite to the ones where you're meant to be really deep into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just thought it wasn't really, and I think I've seen the show several times, so like some of the humor and jokes I've seen them before. They don't really have the same effect on me anymore. And so to me, it was just like a lot of lame jokes and a lot of stuff not adding up. But anyways, I guess we should go through the episode actually more in order.
Yep.
I definitely jumped ahead there. This episode starts out weird. It's definitely done for like the sake of like kind of being like funny and
Right.
kind of showing that Asuka's popular. But man, that paparazzi sequence is weird.
It didn't bother me that much until they get to the point where it's like she's transferred here to the 8th grade. Then I was like, oh, this is weird. It's like super
Yeah.
weird.
I mean, even in high school though, imagine if like, sometimes you and me in high school we would like talk about like, oh man, that girl's really hot or whatever. But imagine if we were like taking pictures of her like
Yeah.
in workout shorts and like trading them for money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what. I mean, I don't know how many students are involved, but it seems like Kinsuke was actually the one taking pictures, which makes sense because he's always got that camera.
Yes.
Because we see him like taking money from some kid. It's like, what is this shady operation? Is this something that's just a joke in Evangelion? This isn't normal in Japan, is it? Because what the hell is?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
this?
That was really weird.
Yeah, that whole sequence is really
Super weird.
just creepy and weird, and I think it's done to be kind of funny here, but it's like, yeah, and especially because it's an 8th grader, it's like. I mean, I guess technically they're all 8th graders, so that makes it.
Yeah.
If it was like adults doing it, so I guess the 8th grade thing doesn't matter as much. But
Otto also really likes making fun of the otaku culture, so I feel like that could be part of it too. And how
That-
they
yeah,
get
it
like really
probably
obsessed
is.
with like younger looking anime girls and not. So I think he kind of did part of that for that sole reason too.
that's probably true.
Because that was pretty over the top.
Yeah, it was something else. But it does establish, Asuka's pretty popular at the
Yeah.
school. She's kind of an instant celebrity. which is kind of weird. I mean, I guess again, maybe they are just kind of like trying to tease or like make fun of that group. But it seems kind of weird from a story perspective why Asuka would be this popular.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, a new kid is kind of interesting in a school, especially in younger. I think in high school you don't really give a crap when a new kid comes in, but in like elementary school, middle school, that's like a big deal. It's like, whoa, the new kid.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's part of her charm. She's from a different country, and she I suppose looks pretty different. I don't think there's a lot of redheaded people in Japan, even after third or second Impact. So I don't know. But I mean, why is she to that level? I mean, there's other girls at the school. Like, I don't know.
Maybe she's just really that hot. We can't tell because she's a cartoon.
Oh, I can tell. We do get. I think my favorite joke in the episode, the funniest thing to me is and I think it's meant to be a little funny, but like it's not even meant to be one of like the big jokes of the episode. But Rey and Asuka's friendship.
Oh yeah.
I said that with quotation marks. You can't see that if you're listening, obviously. But yeah, Asuka saying we should be friends, and Rey just going why, and then saying, well, if I'm ordered to, I'll be friends with you. I think that line is really really funny, and I don't think it's necessarily played off as a funny line, but that line's really funny. So okay, then yeah, we get the first part of the Angel fight that we kind of mentioned. We see Asuka's trying to be show-offy as Asuka is, and runs into battle. Shinji tries to be level-headed. You guys watched the episode. You know what happened.
Yep.
What do you think about this Angel? This isn't one of my favorite Angels, I don't think, as far as like design.
This is design-wise. I mean, I'm pretty used to it, but I feel like out of all the Angels, this is like the most background Angel they've possibly ever done.
Yeah.
Like you don't really get
There's
much
no
on this.
threat.
There's no like. You don't.
There's no urgency.
You only see this Angel when it benefits what they're trying to do in the thing, I guess.
Yeah,
so
this,
I feel like
this Angel only exists to benefit the relationship between Asuka and Shinji, and not to actually be as a threat as an Angel.
Exactly. It like does nothing else but that. So I feel like it's
kind of like the Magma Diver one, where it's like,
yeah,
this was in a volcano somewhere. We could have just left that alone. Like,
yeah,
some of the, I mean, like the last Angel we saw. Was destroying a bunch of ships and like wrecking havoc and trying to kill people and did kill people. The Angel before that was like drilling down into the Geofront. This Angel's like dancing with them. Like
yeah, it did like
it's not.
Apart from like the recap footage we found on after the first attack, really don't see it do much damage. And most of the damage caused was from the military doing the
N2 mine.
The N2 mine, yeah.
Yeah, because Futsuki, I think, is the one who says, like, oh, looks like we're going to have to redraw the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're the one that dropped a big bomb there. So
yeah, so it's just like, I felt like this was like the most non-threatening Angel ever. Like
yeah.
I mean, it could have been really dangerous, but it never showed us anything. It wasn't like at all like that diamond one that's just like wrecking everything and like drilling into the base. Like there's no immediate threat there.
Yeah, exactly. And you would expect the Angels to get like more and more dangerous.
Yeah.
And I forget there's a few here where it's just kind of like, they're just kind of a joke, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they do launch an N2 mine, and this is interesting to me. The N2 mine stalls the Angel for 6 days.
Yeah.
And again, this
How
just goes
convenient.
back to this. Yeah, this just goes back to the whole like, it kind of from a story perspective, it doesn't really make sense to de-escalate a threat. In the first episode of Evangelion, we see an N2 mine drop on an Angel, and it has no effect.
Yep.
It moves immediately after the smoke clears. It didn't even like miss a beat. And yeah, but at this point we're at episode 9, and we see an Angel stopped for 6 days from the same exact mine, and it's like that's kind of lame. I get that the Angels are different, but like I'm just saying from a story perspective, you shouldn't de-escalate threats like that.
It really feels weird to me as like the show at this point took like a really really different turn. Like, the first few episodes before Asuka are, like, kind of serious and really dramatic and kind of things. And then now this is more or less, like, kind of slice-of-life kind of stuff that also happens to have Angel threats in a way.
Yeah, it's got some, like, teenage drama things into it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that obviously changes, I think, around, like, episode 16 and throughout the rest of the show. But, like, yeah, we get this kind of batch episodes here where it's, like, it's its own thing. It's kind of the Asuka saga.
Yeah.
And it's more lighthearted. It's more fun.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is intentional because it does get so dark.
I guess that... Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's kind of a calm before the storm.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's almost his purpose. It makes what happens later more impactful because everything was going so well and calm, and then all of a sudden everything just goes to shit real bad.
Yeah, definitely. But the only problem with it is I think that on a rewatch, on a discussion podcast especially, it makes some of these episodes a little harder to talk about just because when you think about people discussing Evangelion, you usually think about discussing End of Eva or episodes 25 and 26 or stuff like that. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about, man, let's talk about the dancing episode.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think, from our perspective, it makes it a little harder to talk about because usually on a rewatch, even if you like this episode, this is kind of episode that you would just kind of watch and maybe enjoy and then just move on, and you wouldn't really look back on it because there's not a lot to necessarily look back on, even if you do like this episode. But yeah, anyway, so Kaji is actually the one who makes this incredibly
Awesome.
specific plan. And I don't know how, I guess maybe Kaji would have like a way of having more intel on the angel somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know if that makes sense, but if anybody would have more intel on the angel, it'd probably be Kaji, I guess. So maybe he knew something other people didn't. I don't know. Kaji always knows everything, so I guess he knows how to make kids dance too.
Yep. Why not?
Asuka and Shinji become roommates, which always seems like a bad idea to me.
Yeah.
Just because, like, who puts two angsty teens? Like, especially when I mean, sure, maybe you could assume Shinji's not going to do anything, but I mean, Asuka's personality is like very like. I would be worried about putting Asuka in a room with the
because they mentioned before it's like, well, it's for synchronized purposes, but then like they just keep having it happen.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah, in this episode they're supposed to have a reason for it, but
there's almost always seems to be someone behind the scenes has some overall like intention purposes for everything that happens in something. Yeah. Except for this, I can't figure out who is trying to get this to work for something. Like, there's no way Gendo did this because he's not even there. It makes no sense.
I suppose it was just Misato's
I can't
call.
yeah.
I mean, the plan was Kaji's, but the actual, like, let's move in together, that seems like it would have been more Misato's decision. Or, you know what? No, I bet it was Kaji because he's like, if Asuka's there, I don't have to deal with her.
That's probably true, yeah.
She'll stop hitting on me because I'm, like, 40 years old.
Yeah.
How old is Kaji? How old are Kaji and Misato at this point?
No idea. Probably, like, mid-30s, maybe?
Well, Second Impact was 14 years ago, right?
Yeah.
14 or 15 years ago. And Misato was an adult working there. She was, like a young adult. She was probably like 20, early 20s. So, yeah, she's probably like late 30s.
Yeah.
Maybe close to 40. And I assume Kaji is the same age because they went to college together. But anyways, I wanted to say we do get our great shot of Pin in this episode.
Yep, I was going to make the comment too. Took a note of that.
We missed him last time because we were out on the seas. And they didn't bring Pin along, unfortunately. But, yep, he's back in action, and hopefully we'll continue to see him. And
he had a good couple set of footages in this one.
Yep. So we find out that the grand plan of, that they're going to synchronize this dance is on like it's like DDR plus Twister.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can think of to describe it. Yeah. That it's really interesting to me because like it is kind of like Twister, so you're kind of on all fours, like moving around. At no point during the fight do the Evangelions move like that.
No.
So I'm kind of confused because I mean, what they say, like the premise of the episode is they're learning this dance synchronization so that when they pilot the Evas, they will use the exact same movements to be synchronized to the music. And they don't practice any of those movements. They practice like random crawling on the ground dancing moves. Yeah. And it's like none of that comes into play in the battle. And I guess maybe the dancing is just to synchronize their minds to the beat.
So. Yeah.
I guess, but like again, that's one of those things that doesn't really add up because when they actually do the Evangelion fight, they are so synchronized, and maybe you could just say, well, at that point, their minds are so synchronized. Yeah, but you could be on the same page, but, I mean, they're literally doing the exact same movements. Yeah. They're doing the same handsprings at the same time. Like, that's more than just being on the same page mentally. That's, like, coordinated synchronization. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, we didn't really see them practice that. But there is something interesting I want to point out, and I don't know if it's necessarily intended as this. I think I was just reading into this too much. But Misato brings Rei along to kind of be like, hey, Asuka, look, I'll make Rei do it. Rei is totally not used as a person. Like, Misato doesn't even, like, view Rei as a person in that scene.
No, yeah, not at all.
Like, she just totally, I mean, maybe, and Misato, I believed, is not aware of the fact that Rey is like a clone and like is, you know, made out of Lilith or whatever. Like I believe Misato just thinks Rey is like a weird girl, but Misato totally brings Rey along without any care for how Rey might feel about it, and it's just like, I'm just gonna use you to like shove in Asuka's face and not actually care about how you feel about it. And you know, I mean, I don't think it has any effect on Rey, so I guess whatever. But it's interesting that Misato would do that because, and again, I don't think that's necessarily an intentional thing. I think that was just more of a like for the sake of Asuka's character. But it is kind of weird that they did it that way.
Right. I actually got you about that because that's one of the ones I talk about because it is obvious. Rey is straight up there just to push Asuka's buttons because she know that she does not want to be like lesser than Rey in any means at all. So
yeah, couldn't Misato have just said to Asuka like, I can go get Rey, and then Rey wouldn't have to know that she was like used in that way?
I guess so, but I think she just assumed because I think she knew that Rey would be on sync with Shinji. So I think she probably just assumed it'd be like way more effective to actually literally see that Rey could actually do it better than she could.
That's true. You know, this is another interesting thing. We were talking about how everything kind of does. There's like a grand plan for everything.
Yeah.
And especially like as far as Gendo goes, like pretty much everything that the characters are doing, he's kind of manipulating them to go to that path so that they'll do those things for him. And but I don't really. Again, you said like it doesn't really make sense that Asuka and Shinji are living together. It also doesn't make sense why they have to have Asuka and Shinji do this. If Rey is that much better synchronized with Shinji from the get-go, why would you not just have Rey do it?
Well, isn't her unit still messed up?
I guess maybe.
Because she'd have to use either that messed up unit or have to use Asuka's. And Asuka probably has a better sync ratio with hers unit than...
Yeah, I guess maybe, but I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't quite add up to me. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe they wanted to make sure Asuka was in sync for later, so that when they are all three going together. But then, I mean, there's never any attempt to make Rey compatible with the other pilots.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think
kind of already is with Shinji at least. But
because I'm sure Gendo kind of wanted probably Asuka to do it because I think Gendo's also probably aware of the fact that Shinji and Asuka are probably going to actually get realistically better sync ratios than Rey ever will. So it'll be more effective than using her, I guess.
Maybe, I guess.
Because we've never actually seen Rey ever be used effectively in the Angel fight, really all that much. Besides that one time when she held the shield, and that's about it.
Yeah, I guess, she hasn't really done anything, really. Yeah, because I guess Asuka's, if you count this one, even though it was kind of a half victory, she's pretty much beat 2 Angels already. Because, and Rey hasn't beat any.
Yeah, because the first time we see Rey is she's been piloting, she's like torn to shreds from piloting stuff, so obviously it kind of shows us she might be a shitty pilot. Yeah.
That's true. And that wasn't even from actually fighting an angel. That was just from like training.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah. What else? So Shinji tries to kiss Asuka while she's sleeping, which is, I don't know. I'm not sure about this because this seems like something Shinji wouldn't do as a character to me. Like, it just seemed like I could see like Toji or somebody doing this.
Yeah, but
Shinji is like so unwilling to jump into stuff. I mean, he had to be like forced to pilot an Evangelion. Like he doesn't want to do anything. He wants to go through life like not ever taking risks and not ever like doing anything, just being like a little shell. So him like leaning forward and initiating that seems kind of weird to me.
Well, it's also the same guy who jerked off to Asuka in the hospital, so.
That's true.
I think
he is so fucked up.
I think it is kind of Asuka's thing in a way, because that's why I feel like it's so weird they went with Rey sometimes. Other than the fact, I guess it's just supposed to be more motherly connection to him. I guess I'm not sure, but I always felt like that's what Asuka's thing was like, because Shinji actually starts breaking out of shell because of Asuka, because he like really likes her, and she's really assertive, and he kind of like, I don't know, opens up a bit more. The same way like Misato does kind of in the beginning. I feel like that's kind of what Asuka always did too.
Yeah.
Because now he sees her as like... I seem like seeing her kind of in a way he sees Misato, except now she's actually his age, so it's like okay for him to go after it.
Yeah, that could be. I actually did notice some parallels that I never really thought about between Misato and Asuka in this episode, particularly the way they interact with men.
Yeah.
The way Misato acts towards Kaji is very much like the way Asuka treats Shinji.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And I wonder if maybe in some ways Asuka even is aware of that and is kind of treating Shinji the same, because she likes Kaji, so maybe she's trying to kind of act like Misato for that reason.
Yeah, that could be too.
to try to get Kaji. But yeah, that's interesting. I'd never really thought about that parallel between those two relationships before, but there is some similarities. Really, the only difference is the male character in those, because the females act largely the same. But Kaji is very seductive and suave, and Shinji is a hedgehog or whatever.
Yeah. Well, maybe Kaji kind of changed too, because Ritsuko kind of comments being like, "You never used to be so like upfront about it, or whatever before."
That's true, but I don't know, because I mean, we know that later on when Kaji and Misato meet, they were just banging all the time.
Yeah,
so.
Constantly.
I think he's always been kind of maybe he's gotten more suave, but I think he's always been kind of the
suave.
Casanova of the Evangelion.
Yeah.
So then we go back to.
I really want that to be a movie.
The what?
The Casanova of Evangelion.
Maybe that'll be 4.0.
I hope so.
Man, what are we gonna do when 4.0 comes out and we can't make maybe that'll be in 4.0 jokes anymore?
I don't know.
I feel like we've made one in every episode.
I just want to move on to 5.
Well, a 4.0 is a recap movie, like some people say it'll be. I guess that'll be an option.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only thing I've left on my list is the second part of the angel fight, but I feel like we already talked about that earlier.
Pretty much.
I don't really have anything else to say about that. So you actually like this episode?
I do like this episode. I think it's kind of a nice episode.
Yeah, I remember liking this one, but yeah, for some reason I think just
there's a lot
trying to analyze it didn't work for me.
There is a lot of really dumb like stuff that doesn't matter, like the dancing stuff. But I do like there's a lot of subtle like character stuff in here. Like
yeah, there definitely is. Yeah,
because this one I think we get a better feel of who Asuka is in this episode. We get a better understanding of like how she feels about her position, how like she very much covets being a Eva pilot. And that's like her most important thing to her. Because in the beginning when they first fight the angel, Shinji's very much, all right, we gotta go by protocol, and she's very much treats it like a game in a way too.
Yeah,
like she does not take it very seriously.
Well, she just treats it like she wants. I mean, she wants to be the one going, like, doing all this big stuff, so that people will go, "Wow, Asuka, that was nuts!
Right.
You totally killed that angel." But that stuff's not really effective.
Right. She treats it like almost like a scoreboard game. Like she's trying to get on top of leaderboards, like be number one.
Rather than being
like,
she's trying to show off.
Yeah, rather than being like, the whole point is for you just to take out the angels. That is it. We don't care about anything
else. I mean, she's the kind of person that scores a touchdown and does like a weird dance. Or
yeah, exactly.
But she's doing the dance while she's running the field too.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. You got to wait until you've already won.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this episode we definitely do see, because like last episode, we just saw Asuka's like just kind of a strong, loud person, and like this week we kind of see like there's some like weakness to her. There's some like doubt inside of her, because the whole thing of her like running away to the convenience store or whatever. Like we see that like there's a side of Asuka aside from just the tough, hard as nails.
Her crying for her mom in her sleep too.
Yeah, that's true, and that's something we're setting up for a lot later. So, I forgot to write this down actually, but I did want to talk about this. So, Asuka gets up during the middle of the night, goes to the bathroom, and comes back and lays down with Shinji. Do you think the episode kind of plays it off like maybe she's just tired and like doesn't really know where she's going? But do you think she intentionally laid next to Shinji because like she was feeling kind of like she needed to be next to somebody? Because if she's asking for her mama, maybe it's not even like a guy thing. It's just like she wants a close connection with somebody, so she intentionally laid down there. Or maybe it was just an accident.
Well, see, that's what the first time I watched this, I really thought it was she was trying to be next to Shinji, like almost like she's messing with Shinji. Well, actually, this time it really does seem like she accidentally like went, because I didn't even realize until I watched it. I was like, oh, it's supposed to be like she accidentally went there, because not like she's actually trying to hit on Shinji. But I don't know. I think it's kind of, I don't know. I think it's a mix of both in a way, I guess.
Yeah,
like
maybe she like sort of almost not quite subconsciously, but like she just felt that need to be close to somebody, so she kind of was led herself there. Yeah. But she wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go scare Shinji in his sleep. Right. It wasn't like that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But because I feel like if Asuka had like fully intentionally gone there, she might have said something.
Right.
Even if it wasn't like Asuka being mean, it would have just been like because I think, oh man, did I just make this up? Isn't there an episode later where she like lays next to him and just says like, "Don't say anything. I'm just gonna lay here."
I was wondering about that. I'm trying to think, because I think this scene plays out differently in the rebuilds. So
Maybe
I
maybe
think
it is in the rebuilds.
I'm getting like these scenes mixed up.
Yeah, here we are sending dumb again for our audience, but I'm pretty sure there's a scene either in the rebuilds or later on in the show where she lays next to him and just says like, "I'm just gonna lay here, shut up, don't say anything." And that see if this was fully conscious and intentional, I think she would have said that here too.
I agree.
Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Guess we'll find out.
I guess it's up for debate. What do you guys think? Leave a comment below. um, but yeah, I guess on that note, that was obviously I was joking. But if you do want to comment on stuff, since we're kind of wrapping up here, feel free to do so on our YouTube if you're watching on there. We always love to hear from everybody. If you're watching this, if you're linked from the Evangelion subreddit, you can comment on the post on there. Or if you're on iTunes or whatever, you can email us. The email address is in the YouTube description, or it's the David Mayer. I'm not going to go through spelling it again. If you really want to email us, just go look at the YouTube description for this episode. Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of in every episode, kind of at this point said like, here's where you can find us, but I feel like people probably
I think they know at this point.
know at this point. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, but again, we do like to hear from you guys, so feel free to comment and stuff. And I mean, some people already have been, and we really appreciate that. I don't think I have anything else to say, really. You got anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. I don't actually. I'm not looking at the. I can't see the time here, so I'm not sure if this was a shorter episode or not. I think it's kind of shorter. I do think some of these episodes that we're in right now will be a little bit shorter, just because, like we said earlier, there isn't quite as much depth to these episodes. They're kind of a little more popcorny, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's a good
There's still some really interesting things in the background, but it's really the episodes where the interesting stuff comes full force that we can get really deep into.
Yeah.
Right now, we can discuss that background information, but there's not a lot to talk about as far as the actual plot of each episode right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, I guess that's probably easier. You don't have to spend as long as listening to us talk about things we don't understand. But if you do want that, then get ready, because in about 9 more episodes, we're going to be knee deep in that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So next week we're going to watch episode 10, which I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think it's Magma Diver. That's 10 or 11. And so make sure you've brushed up on your episode 10 knowledge, or have actually rewatched it with us, which is what we recommend. And we'll see you then.
Later.